Hello, everybody. I want to take a few minutes just to go over the final essay assignment. So this is a short paper which will be due during the last week of regular class. I'll have a Dropbox in that folder for the last week's assignments that you can upload your essay. And so this is just so we're all clear. This is an assignment that is distinct from the final exam. There will be also a final exam, which of course will be take home, and it will look a lot like the midterm did. So I don't want in the past I've had confusion that the final essay is it the same thing as the exam? Is it different? These are different assignments. So you can find this same sheet I have on the screen here on the course Blackboard site. If you look to the links on the left for the info for the final essay. And so you'll find at the top, so write an essay according to the guidelines below. It'll be due during the last week of regular class. Think of it as a kind of a two-part essay. You can almost think of it as kind of two short 4-page papers, as it were. So what I'd like you to do is to choose a piece of literature and a work of art, it could be a painting, it could be a sculpture, it could be a piece of music, which we have not touched upon in class in lectures or films from one of the following time periods. Now, I say that we have not touched upon the class again. We have a number of eras that we're going to get to in the last weeks, and so if you wanted to do something from a more recent era, you might be thinking, well, what if I choose something and then he ends up going over it in class in a lecture? That's a completely legitimate observation. So I'll say that when I say we have not touched upon in class, do your best. If you really want to kind of explore something that we have already talked about in lectures and such, that's fine. The reason I look for you to do something that we haven't touched upon in class is just so that you have an opportunity to kind of take something beyond what we've done in class, and so it's more a useful exercise to you and a more interesting reading for myself. So do your best, but I will not dock you points if you pick something that we've talked about. So here are these are more or less the kind of the eras outlined by our textbook. I think actually we started here in the 14th century, 15th century, High Renaissance in Italy, High Renaissance in the North, the Baroque era, Age of Enlightenment, and then kind of where we are right now, kind of the Romantic era and the Modern era is where we'll stop. You'll choose, you got two things, a piece of literature and a work of art from one of these time periods. And I would use the textbook as a kind of a guide to kind of look at, what kind of things are there. There's lots of, summaries and lists of things, particularly at the end of the chapters that you can rely upon. And then what I'd like you to do is to construct a 7 to 8 page essay which analyzes these works, the work of literature and the work of art, according to the following guidelines. Briefly introduce, describe, outline the themes of each piece. In which ways do these works reflect or challenge the values of the cultural movements in their day? Are there clear influences from previous eras on these works? What later works do they influence, if that applies? If applicable, what is the view of humanity in these works in relationship to the divine? What I don't want is you simply to kind of say, oh, my paper has to answer all of these questions. These are really just to kind of get you started thinking. So analyze them in ways that you find interesting. You might take maybe one or two of these as kind of a guide stone for how you should analyze. But moving on, consult for each of these things, your work of literature and your work of art, at least one scholarly secondary source for each work and engage with the arguments therein. So that what I mean by a scholarly secondary source is that would be a book, a chapter of a book, a journal article. What it doesn't mean is just kind of loose websites. It does not mean Wikipedia, as great as Wikipedia can be. And Wikipedia can be a great starting point for a research project. But as a general rule, never cite Wikipedia in an exercise like this because it's not considered a legitimate scholarly secondary source. I will often start my own writing projects by going to, relevant Wikipedia pages. But what I will do is I'll scroll down to the bottom and see their bibliography. What works is the Wikipedia article based on? And often that's where you can find legitimate stuff. And so I'd like you to find, one scholarly article or book chapter relating to the work of literature, and one scholarly secondary source relating to the work of art. And then engage the arguments and observations therein. And where do you find these? Again, look on Blackboard. I have a link with lots of research resources. There's lots of databases from the GRCC library that are free for you to use if you're logged in with your account. This one here, JSTOR.org, which GRCC has a subscription to, is a place where you can do keyword searches, and if there's things to be found, they'll pop up as PDFs that you can download to your screen. You can print up at no cost to yourself. And anything that you find on a site like JSTOR, or anything that you find in any of these databases that you can find linked on the course Blackboard site, are legit secondary sources. You don't even have to worry about it. So what I really don't want is just I don't want you citing somebody's blog or some just kind of loose article that doesn't have an author listed and the like. Find a legit source from a legitimate publication that talks about your work of literature and work of art. So you can almost think of it, like I said, as kind of two short 4-page papers, a 4-page paper on the work of literature and a 4-page paper on the work of art. And just make sure they kind of, they roughly come from, both of these things come from the same time period. So hopefully that gives you enough room to kind of find something that you're interested in. If there's a particular era or a particular kind of work of literature or style or artistic piece that you find really interesting and that maybe we've just brushed upon in class and you want to know more about, this is your chance to kind of take it further and find a path that you can follow that you will find kind of invigorating and enlightening. In terms of specifics, I say the papers, you should have at least 7 full pages of text, and that's the writing part of it. So it does not count a title page or the bibliography. That's not counted in the final count of pages. So 7 to 8 pages of kind of written text and analysis. Papers must have a separate title page, which includes the title of the paper, name of you, the date, the class, my name. Papers must have a properly formatted bibliography page at the end of the essay. All pages except for the title page must be numbered. Write it using a 12-point font, double-spaced, and just the standard margins that pop up in Microsoft Word, which is, I'm going to guess, what most of you will be writing your paper in. Give it a good proofread. In this day and age of spell check, grammar check, there's no excuse for those kinds of typos really anymore. And as far as kind of citing these secondary sources and organizing your bibliography, I don't really care what format you use. MLA is probably the most common one in this kind of writing, but you have APA, there's Chicago. I don't care which one you use as long as you're consistent with the format that you choose. And you can also, I have links in the research resources and on the Blackboard site, which will also kind of help you kind of nail that kind of stuff down if you're not familiar with this. There's lots of help from the library on these kind of formats, and don't hesitate to contact people over there, talk to people, look at the website, and there's so many helps out there to help you nail down kind of those format specific kinds of stuff. So let me know if you have a question. I've already gotten a couple of questions from people who kind of already taken a look at the assignment and are thinking about it. That's great. Keep those coming in, and let me help you the best that I can. See you later.